Okay, this video is for everybody in recovery who is trying really hard. Feels like they're giving 100% effort every day at rewiring, but they're also still very much resisting weight gain or their body changing, right, in some way. Those two things are never going to happen. You're never going to be able to fully rewire yourself out of a restrictive eating disorder while also maintaining the body that you think you're supposed to be in, the ideal body that you think that you're supposed to be in. Those two things are never going to happen. I don't know how many times or how clear I can say that, but I find that when people start feeling really discouraged and they're having a hard time committing, right, that commitment part, it's like they'll do well and then they'll kind of back off and then they'll push themselves. And always the reason that they back off is because they start noticing body changes. Almost always. That's like 99% of the time. That's why people will slip back or pump the brakes or kind of start playing games with the eating disorder or let it in a little bit, is because they start feeling uncomfortable in their body. And they let all that fear completely consume them. And then they start to become very stagnant. And then they start to actually start regressing backwards. And so if you're trying to recover, if you're somebody in recovery right now and you're still in denial and you're still thinking that you're going to somehow beat the system, somehow you're going to figure out a way to rewire all your eating disorder behaviors and all your eating disorder thoughts and beliefs, but also be able to control your weight gain, it's not going to happen. That might sound depressing and frustrating, and it might feel like, no, if I try harder, I'll figure out a way. Or I can't tell you, seriously, probably over 100 different things I tried to recover from my eating disorder while also trying to maintain where my body was, or, gaining a certain amount and then trying to stop, like put a halt to it, and then wish and hope that maybe this with time, my brain would go back to normal. It didn't happen. And it's not going to happen for you. And I know that, like, we've all been taught, right? Never let anybody tell you you can't. That's the reason that I actually went into recovery, is because the dietitian told me I couldn't do it. And I was like, in your face, I'm doing it, right? But in this case, like, I don't want to say prove me wrong, because I would not like to see somebody try to pursue that and then feel frustrated. But honestly, I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen. I have seen people who claim to be recovered where their bodies didn't change at all. I have seen people who claim to recover who went from being extremely thin to fit, right? And turning all of that, fuel and food they were eating into muscle. That's not recovery though. Like, that's still just switching a disorder for another disorder. Same thing with people who will, greatly or vastly undereat, and then they start to eat more, but it's all extremely orthorexic. They're just shifting one thing from the other. They're basically just juggling balls in the air, trying to make sure that none of them drop, because if it does, then that might mean that your body changes. And that is such a stressful way to do recovery. I think one of the reasons that I was able to be successful in that last attempt at recovery is because from day one, and that was different than every other attempt, by the way, from day one, I said, I am going to allow my body to change. I'm going to allow my body to do and get to whatever it needs to do to be able to fully rewire. And I will not stop until my mental state is normal. Back to Becky, back to the old brain that I used to have. And if you don't have that kind of level of commitment, you don't have that kind of vision, like this is happening, you're going to feel like you're being stomped all over. You're going to feel powerless. You're going to feel discouraged and frustrated. You're going to feel like a failure. I can't tell you how many times I tried to recover doing it that way without accepting that body change and feeling like an absolute utter failure. I went into this last attempt at recovery with not a lot of confidence, but that was, I think, the piece that I was missing all those years before, was that I had to accept that my body was going to change. I think I've made my point clear. Hopefully this has hit some of you guys where it needs to, in the heart, realizing that your body is not you. It is not your identity. You've got to detach and just tear that apart, and you're not going to do that until you're kind of forced to, until you've committed to eating unrestrictedly. The body changes are happening, but you're not going back. And then all of a sudden you're faced, you're kind of like put in a corner. And I know that doesn't sound comfortable, but the truth is like, you'll figure out a way when you get there. And you can talk to many clients I've worked with at this point that will tell you that same thing. They're like, I I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I didn't anticipate it like feeling as hard, but when I got to that point, I had come so far already, and I did not, or was not willing to sacrifice going back, that I just figured out a way. It felt more manageable, more doable. But you're never going to go into recovery with like a game plan as to how you're going to be able to accept that. You just have to go through the actions, through the motions, focusing on your mental rewiring. And then when that happens, again, you don't go back. You just keep plowing through. Cry, pout, shout, punch the wall, talk to a coach, eat more food, like whatever you have to do, you just cannot weaken. You cannot go back. So again, I hope that you listen to this message. Maybe listen to this video a couple of times when you're really struggling with that commitment factor and accepting that your body needs to change. With that, have a wonderful day.